There are 16 achievements you can get in Blueprints. My goal is to give you hints so that you can still solve some puzzles, but if spoilers for a trophy make you nervous, try jumping to other timestamps. First off is the Inheritance Trophy, and that's the easiest because that's just going to happen naturally. Reaching room 46 will also help you unlock other game modes, which also have trophies. There's also an achievement for reaching room 46 in an hour, and another one for reaching it on day 1. Both of these can be done at the same time, which is my recommendation. Let's break down these game modes.
Dare mode is a crazy challenge. The goal is to reach room 46 just like the main game, but there are commands that you have to follow. In fact, you can't even open room 46 unless you have all 4 of your dares. You start the game with 1 and then a new dare gets added each day, which sounds kind of strange at first, like why not all 4 at once? Well, this is Blueprints' way of being kind. You can still get all the upgrades from the main game, so your first 3 days should be spent unlocking things before they potentially get banned. For example, let's look at this dare. Press no more than 1 switch or button in each utility closet. That's pretty bad. But if you already have a gem mind, then this dare becomes a joke. The other way to play dare mode is to instantly call it a day until you reach your 4th dare. That way there's no surprises and there's no time lost. For example, you won't waste any time unlocking things just to get rocked by a surprise 4th dare that's way too difficult and threatens your entire run. Which tactics you employ are ultimately up to you. I mean, hey, it's not like you can win until you get your 4th day dare, right? Well, imagine my surprise in the laboratory when I came across this experiment. What? What is this? What is this? What is this dare? I believe the ability to add more dares exists only to allow for day 1 dare wins. I'm not gonna repeat that. Just know that all you poor folks who are struggling for the day 1 trophy could have it so much worse. I don't know if you can go beyond 4 dares with this experiment because I'm a lily liver chicken, but I imagine you can. So masochists, please gather behind dare mode. It's worth noting that even if you break a dare, you'll only lose that day's progress, though if you lose a day 1, you'll have to reload a brand new save with a brand new first dare. And not every command is created equal. Some are pretty easy, like never eat fruit. I mean, I do that in real life. Others seem easy, but are actually secretly tricky. Make exactly 1 purchase or trade in each shop you draft means that your aquarium is an instant death. Actually, aquarium will just about always ruin you in dare mode. Funny how it goes from such an incredible room in the main game to just awful in challenge runs and especially curse mode. But some dares, my friends, are just borderline impossible. Never enter a room more than 3 times. Finish each day with 0 coins, 0 keys, and 0 gems. I've heard that one might be glitched, but I'm gonna save you some trouble. Just reset. There's no shame in getting new dares. This is a challenge mode, not a kill yourself mode, which again sounds more like curse mode, which I'm begrudgingly doing as my next challenge. So my own dare mode took about 10 hours, but before I talk about that, let's just rank all of the dares in the order in which I think they're most reasonable. Again, some of them are way harder than others. I tend to rank favorably ones that you know you can do. Like, for example, opening up all the chests is annoying, but every time you see a chest, you know, okay, I can do this. Where the ones that require a lavatory, as funny as waiting in there for 30 seconds is, that requires you to have a lavatory, which is not a guarantee and can make it really, really stressful if you made a lot of progress, but you have not actually done that yet. I'm gonna pin this list as well, so don't feel like you have to pause it. One final funny dare that we have to talk about, which I think is probably emblematic of dare mode more than anything else, is leaving the Mount Holly blueprint on the entrance hall table. I've seen so many streamers just instantly lose because they pick up the blueprint without reading their first dare. The funny thing about this is that yes, it is pretty hard and I rank it hard because I am directionally challenged, but if you are somebody who rises to the occasion, who is down to take your own notes as you're playing through the game, create your own physical blueprint just like Herbert S. Sinclair would have wanted, not only do you have an easy dare, quote unquote, but you also gain this increased appreciation for the environment of blueprints, kind of like playing through a game without any minimap UI stuff. I think that there's actually something really cool about that, though personally, I'm a little baby boy and I need to have my map at all times. Curse mode is ridiculous. This is a challenge mode for Blueprints where you start each day with 13 steps, and each time you draft a color room, you lose the resource that it's associated with. So for example, drafting an orange hallway will make you lose a key. A green room will make you lose a gem. A purple bedroom will lose a step. A golden shop will lose a coin, and red rooms make you lose all of them at the same time. This is even funnier with the aquarium, which is already every color and a red room. So yeah, you do lose everything twice. May as well be Davy Jones' locker in there. And mind you, I didn't just draft that aquarium for fun. That was the only valid option to continue moving throughout the day, which is hysterical. And then take a look at this run where I had 3 red rooms without a furnace. It's like, how do you not love this ridiculous challenge mode? Now, many players ask me, how do you unlock curse mode? Well, there's a few steps. The first is drafting a bookshop and having 40 coins to buy a book inside of it. Bookshop is an interesting room in that it can only be drafted from the library. So if it's your top priority to unlock dare mode, definitely have some dice or a study and try re-rolling off of the library. Eventually you'll get there. The 40 coin purchase is a book called The Curse of the Black Bridge. Once you've bought it, you can check it out and read the entire thing from your own library, which you do have to do. The Curse of Black Bridge is extremely long, way longer than all the other books, but it's really well written and absolutely worth reading. And once you've done that, you can now purchase the cursed coffers from the room called Mount Holly Gift Shop. This room will only show up once you've reached room 46, but I imagine you've already done that because there's no way you'd care about curse mode until you've beaten the game normally. As the description says, this does add a special chest of sorts to the shrine in the outer room. You can't just open this with a regular key. You will need a sledgehammer, and the game will prompt you many times not to smash it open, but doing so will unlock curse mode, and you'll also be cursed for today and your next day as well. Being cursed is basically a negative blessing. You can't just trump over it with a regular one, and that includes curse mode itself. If you think you're a wise guy by drafting a shrine in curse mode, well, just take a look at what you're greeted with. And so the best way to play around the curse is not by a cheesy blessing, but by not having the resource when you draft the room. For example, if you have 0 keys in your inventory, drafting a hallway won't make you go negative or it won't prevent you from drafting it. You'll just lose 0 keys. So it's pretty helpful to know when to spread out your resources and when to pick them up. Look at that. That's why we don't pick up the gem. Look at that. A gem saved is a gem earned. By the way, I very rarely went outside in curse mode because 13 steps to start your day off is so low. You are risking a very poor day by throwing away all those steps. It's not the easiest thing to get steps in this mode, especially when it's difficult to find upgrade discs or to find a lot of money to buy out a kitchen. It's a compounding issue. Think of it like this. If you have a lot of steps, not only do you have more opportunities in general, but those opportunities can lead to more steps. When you're limited to just 13, you don't have the range to consistently find extra steps. It's rough. To be frank, nursery is the single best room in all of curse mode, and it's not even close. Likewise, the bedroom and the boudoir, being purple rooms that continue, are also extremely important for your nursery days, which you're hopefully seeing every run. If you don't see a nursery, hopefully you can draft an observatory to gain a permanent star, or if you're really fortunate, you can get a laboratory for experiments. Experiments are hugely important in curse mode, arguably more important than any other mode of the game. You have your usual suspects like permanently increasing star count or increasing your allowance, but the real star of the show is setting your steps to 40. This is the single best way to have all the steps you'll need for a valid day. Heaven forbid you can trigger it twice. Frankly, I spent a lot of days in curse mode making the smallest, most incremental progress. And by progress, I mean drafting an observatory and just frankly calling that a win. Just like in my dare mode run, the conservatory is extremely important. That is a great use of your day. Making red rooms rare is more important than ever. Making blue rooms more common is great as well. Blue rooms, if you haven't noticed by now, are the only rooms in which nothing bad happens to you. Then of course there's just making powerful rooms more common. One of the best things I did was make the attic show up more frequently. 3 gems is a lot, but with a gem mine, all you need is a parlor or an OP den, and you can instantly get all the items you'll need for a day. Let me tell you, items are not easy to acquire in curse mode, and drafting an early attic was the only reason I was able to assemble a power hammer, which is of course a tried and true way to reach room 46. Just make sure you can get a coat check as well. But if you don't find a coat check, hopefully you have enough steps to go outside and bust open that door to the underground. On a similar note, if you start a day in curse mode and find that you're not making any real progress, a good use of your time is going outside and trying to find a tomb. We all know that's the easiest way to pull back the minecart, and again, a solid use of a limited 13-step day. Now, some of you scouts might be listening and wondering, why is it 13 steps? Shouldn't you have 33 with the apple orchard? Well, let's just say it's not called curse mode for no reason. I mean, take take a look at the outside of Mount Holly, it may as well be Mount Helly. That being said, the aesthetic of Curse Mode is gorgeous, and it's additionally fascinating when you consider the contents of the book Red Prince, which does talk about a red sky. You may have heard that the final update for Blue Prince will include a unique opening cutscene and a unique game-winning cutscene for both Dare Mode and Curse Mode. I'm very curious if Curse Mode will have more references to Red Prince than it already does. Now, throughout my streams, people were asking me, is Curse Mode demoralizing? And the answer is surprisingly no. I mean, yeah, it's really frustrating to only have a few steps, but that's kind of what this mode is. It's challenging for a reason, and it's not as though you're getting blindsided. You know exactly what you're getting into with a mode called Curse Mode. I do appreciate how this challenge makes you play the game differently. For example, for the first time ever, I purchased a salt shaker, wanting to get 1 or even 2 extra steps out of it. That's crazy. I made it a genuine priority to throw coins in the fountain, especially if my day was not going very well. I learned that even if it costs you 1 of your gem mine gems, an early chapel is still worth picking, and as a result, I tried very hard to not just pick up my allowance right away, especially if I knew I would enter back inside the entrance hall. Heaven forbid I could actually get a coin purse as well to get even more value out of it. Since my general game plan was to make a beeline straight for the corners of the house to try and draft an early conservatory because I knew that that would be permanent, meaningful progress, I tried very hard to spend 1 gem in the meantime. That way I don't just lose both of my gem mine gems to the conservatory's green room debuff. I don't just blindly pick up keys from the nook as soon as I can. I'm very likely to draft a hallway that's going to make me lose it. But at the same time, sometimes you have to pick up those items and resources because there's just no way you're gonna have the steps to backtrack unless you find the laboratory experiments. The Blackbridge Grotto is so crucial. It's difficult as heck to connect power to a laboratory, but if you can manage to pull it off in Curse Mode, holy cow, that means that your office and your security rooms are also potential chances for an early experiment, and solving the safe inside the office is going to give you a rebate to make it only 1 gem, just like the security and laboratory. That is a notable point. You should not tackle Dare Mode and Curse Mode until you've gotten a real hang of the main game. You definitely want your safes opened, and you absolutely want a planetarium. Beating Blue Prince in 1 day is so challenging. There's absolutely no progress that you make, which makes it a pretty different beast than Dare Mode and Curse Mode. As you'd expect, to win this trophy, you need to reach room 46 on the very first day. While not strictly necessary, this is also an easy way to get your 1-hour speedrun trophy as well. My winning run took about 50 minutes, so this is very doable, despite the fact that I spent a lot of time hemming and hawing over the exact ways to go about it. Now, in order to even attempt this trophy, you need to really understand Blue Prince, and you especially need to understand how to open room 46. This challenge will test how adaptable you are, and so you need to understand the many paths that can get there that are very complicated. Bear with me as I try my best to explain. Reaching room 46 requires 3 major goals, and each of these goals have different ways to accomplish them. The first goal is an antechamber lever. This is mandatory because that's where room 46 is. You can also get a basement key from here, which is usually helpful, but you might be surprised to hear that basement key isn't strictly necessary. There are a lot of alternate paths that don't require it, so you can save some steps by not picking up the key and instead only entering the antechamber once for your win. As a reminder, the greenhouse and the weight room will give you the south path. The Great Hall is east. The Secret Garden is west, but can also be east if you have a power hammer. There's other levers too, but don't worry about them. They aren't feasible on day 1. Okay, second goal you need is to pull back the minecart, and there are 2 sub goals for this. The easiest way by far is to draft a tomb and solve the angel statue puzzle. As a side note, the old advice was to have 1 or 2 ivory dice for the outer room. That's because the tomb was not possible to draw in your starting draft. With recent updates to Blue Prince, however, that's no longer the case. You can find the tomb on your first pull. If your run is going poorly, I kind of like taking your 3 out of 8 chance for the tomb. You don't have much to risk. But of course, having more dice is always a good idea, especially if your day is going well overall. This requires a pump room, which requires a pool, which requires a gem and some luck. The best way to pull a pool is to use a silver key on the east or the west wing. Normally, a silver key will grab 4-way rooms like passageway, but here's a pro Blue Prince tip. The game will never spawn rooms that have paths beyond the house. For example, you won't see west paths on the west wing, or you won't draft north paths on rank 9. Anyway, the fountain works, but you will need a basement key. Now that you've pulled back the minecart, the third and final goal is to enter the underground, and there are 3 sub goals for this. First, you can enter through the Foundation's elevator. This is pretty tough because Foundation just by itself is rare, and you also have to path into its backside to pull the lever. This elevator route does require the basement key. The second way is to use a power hammer outside.
outside in the area near the chest elevator, then use it again to smash into the basement. Surprisingly, you don't need a basement key. The third and final way is to use the pump room and drain the reservoir by one. Doing so means you can enter the main underground area through the same way that you pulled back the minecart, typically the tomb. You can't normally drain the entire fountain and the -1 reservoir, but you can if you power the pump room with boiler room. That is hard to pull off, but it's doable, especially if you keep chaining rooms that continue the power line. Are you still with me? I know this is a lot, but that's what day one runs are. They're a lot. And day one is a special day in any Blueprints playthrough. There are some factors that will always be the same. For example, the dining room will always serve you fish on day one, which means you get an extra 10 steps from drafting an aquarium. It's not a common room, but aquarium is already very strong for nursery synergies and the ability to dig up dirt, so this gets even better. Another day one quirk is your starting draft. Your very first room is always a choice between hallway, bedroom, and closet. In the past, it was recommended to pick bedroom. That's because the starting bedroom always had a chest inside of it, which meant pretty good odds for ivory dice for your tomb. With the new updates, however, it now does not matter when you draft the bedroom. Every single bedroom in day one will have a treasure chest in it. As you can imagine, it's not easy getting resources on day one. That means it's not a bad idea to just use a key on a chest, especially if you think you'll never be able to backtrack to that room again. Steps are so important. Using a key on a chest will usually pay for itself. In fact, sometimes you can profit keys, and if you can pull off a secret garden for a premium antechamber lever option that spreads fruit, ooh, you are the money. All this makes Sledgehammer even more important than it usually is. Not only are Sledgehammers saving you keys for your chests, but remember all those ways to reach room 46? If you can assemble a power hammer, you've unlocked several powerful ways to win the game. I'm a huge fan of power hammer. I do my best to always draft workshops when I can, which, by the way, workshop spawns an item, and on day one, it's almost always a battery, broken lever, or a sledgehammer to help you summon Exodia. I mentioned steps already, but man, they are so important. We don't have the luxury of an apple orchard or a sauna. It's just 50 steps. An early nursery is huge. In fact, I will often prioritize a nursery over building pathways on my starting wings. That's how strong it is. Running shoes are incredible. Dining room is just straight up S tier. But even more than all this, you have to consider steps when you're drafting all the time. Knowing when to keep pushing on a path or when to turn back for resources is very important. I mentioned shooting your shot with a tomb on the outside, but sometimes you have to go outside anyway, like using the power hammer to go inside the basement. You can save some precious steps by waiting to roll your tomb and doing all the outside stuff at the same time. That matters a lot more if you don't have a nursery or a sleeping mask or running shoes. So again, steps are important. Think about your routes. It goes without saying, but items are also very important. A metal detector can get you all the keys you'll need, and the coins you pick up might even net you a second item or a decent meal in a kitchen. Shovel can dig up turnips. That's huge. By the way, turnips do get buffed by salt shaker. There are times you might want to buy a salt shaker. Crazy. Shovel can also get you keys and even items like secret garden key or broken lever. The dark room is a pretty crazy room because usually it's not great to backtrack for the utility closet. Your steps are very valuable. However, if you can draft a dark room near a utility closet, that is absolutely worth it because the dark room will always have an item. Yes, it could be something lame like a gem or a key, but there's a pretty decent chance that you'll get a lockpick or a broken lever. Green rooms are extremely good for item generation, particularly the courtyard that has a great item in it like a shovel or a metal detector, or it will at least have a chest. It also has dig spots. It can be watering canned. You can even gain a gem from the patio. Courtyard is an S tier room on day one. It is so crucial. It's always worth the gem. However, sometimes you can get a security door in there, which can be a little bit awkward. There's even a subtle reason to draft your courtyard. Let me explain. I love picking the secret passageway, and I love picking green because if you are not on the wings and you've already drafted courtyard, that means that you're guaranteed a free green room, which will either be cloister or aquarium. This works because of a hidden mechanic in Blueprints. If you're presented with 3 options and all of them cost gems, the first room will always become free. That's that special cost bypass message if you've ever seen it and you're curious. Cloister might not have dig spots on day one, but paying 1 gem for 4 paths, that's pretty great, and we've already talked about how amazing aquarium is. However, there's also another strong choice for a secret passage, choosing the orange book for hallways. If you're on the wings, it's not possible to get 4-way doors like passageway or great halls. That means you're very likely to pull foyer and pull it for free. Not Not only will that save you a ton of keys with your powerful hallways, but that makes the Great Hall an easy antechamber lever, and you get some extra resources too. So you can start to see how difficult day one is. There's so many things to consider, but that's what makes it thrilling. Even as you're bashing your head against the wall over and over again because you're so freaking close, maybe you were off by only a matter of steps, or maybe you got an unlucky special key from the locksmith. No! Locksmith, by the way, is pretty good because you have a 30% chance of getting a secret garden key, but there's also a decent chance of getting a prism key or a silver key. Ugh. Funny enough, I had a streak of unlucky runs where I would go outside, pull off a tomb, solve the minecart, then return to the mansion and start drafting dead ends for my day to be over. It was absolutely hysterical. Frankly, the biggest skill check for you is your risk tolerance. As a player, I like to play risky until a winning image can solidify in my head. In other words, I play conservatively when I'm drowning in items, and I take chances when things are not going super great. How do you know when things aren't going super great? Again, items are a really good way to know. Oh, remember how your very first door is always the same 3 rooms during day 1? I made a habit of a center door closet to instantly know what item I've got. Getting a sledgehammer, metal detector, shovel, or heaven forbid if you're lucky enough for the lucky rabbit's foot. Wow, that's golden. Heck, I've even learned to love the silver key as a means to reliably draft the pool. If I didn't get any of these options, I reset. Sorry, but I'm not wasting my time on a coin purse. Day 1 is hard enough, you have to know when to call it. Reset meta is a thing, by the way. Blueprints doesn't have a built-in way to start over day 1. The fastest way I found is to call it a day, exit to menu, delete the save, and then hop back in. Alt F4 and reloading the game was not faster, at least not in my underpowered PC setup. Now, I want to talk about some of the weird rooms of day 1. There's a lot of obviously good stuff and some not so obvious stuff. Patio. Look, this room pays for its own gem. It's got dig spots. It makes courtyard even better, and sometimes there's free items in here. Veranda is a harder sell at 2 gems. Let me tell you, gems are very precious in day 1. However, we've discussed how important items and resources are. Making green rooms even stronger is incredible, so if I see an early veranda, you better believe I'm going for it. Greenhouse, man, it's a solid room. You've got a lever in there, it's got dig spots. The items typically incredible, like a shovel or a watering can. For whatever reason, it's my least used room, probably because I tend to favor the power hammer for my broken lever, but man, don't sleep on the greenhouse. Boudoir, I can't believe I have to even bring this up, but I saw a day 1 tier list on Reddit that put it at C, so I have to address it. Boudoir profits you a gem, which again is insane on day 1, and it has sleep synergies with nursery and sleeping mask while continuing not being a dead end. All I can say is it is not a C tier room. Garage, not a weird room, but there are weird interactions. I used to think garage was guaranteed on the 4th rank of the West Wing. It is very, very likely, but if you whiff here, don't worry, you still have decent chances the more north you go. Just keep in mind you can never draft a garage going from the south side. And more important than this is a rare but very possible outcome. If you have a secret garden, then you draft the garage above it, you can access the secret lever without a power hammer. Granted, you're on the west side and the secret lever's on the east side, but still, it could totally matter. Finally, let's talk about 3 similar rooms. Archives, weight room, passageway. They're all 4-way paths. They all have power ducts for a boiler plus pump room combo, and they're also likely to have security doors. That last point is really important. You are always gutting for utility closet to get your garage and your tomb, so being able to save keys on security doors is massive. Security room is already a great room. Heck, you can even find a lockpick in there, which is crazy. The fact that it can save you so many keys as well as be a T-shape is absolutely worth the gem cost.
If you're like me and you've ever tried to go for a platinum trophy on PlayStation, you know it can be a mess. 1 second you're on a guide website, next thing you know, you've been hit with spoilers or a full screen ad that keeps on going. There's a new app soon to be released called Trophy Hunter, and it's built to make platinum hunting much more enjoyable. It is on mobile first, and it gives you hints on how to unlock that achievement. You get all sorts of features like dark mode, so you don't burn your eyes at 2 a.m. on the couch. You can check hints right under each trophy, and you can view all your platinums in one place. And you can also write and share your own. You can filter the trophies and hide all the unmissable ones so you won't get any spoilers. Honestly, I wish this app existed years ago. I've already followed the project. I am very much looking forward to its official launch. Do check it out if you are interested in trophies yourself. The link is down below in the description. Be sure to follow when the project goes live.
The Trophy of Drafting can be learned about in the Sweepstakes Volume 5, which can be purchased from the bookshop. You don't actually have to do that though. As long as you draft 20 dead ends in one day, you will find this trophy in the mailroom, regardless of reading the book or not. It is tricky, but we can get cheesy. Bunk Room counts as 2 dead ends, and with Chamber of Mirrors, we can easily draft a second copy. We especially like Chamber of Mirrors because it counts as a dead end even when its paths are opened. Secret Passage is also a quote-unquote dead end that does continue on, which means that Spare Secret Passage is very clutch for this challenge. Greenhouse is an interesting case. This is a dead end that can permanently gain a path with a power hammer. If you smash it on the day of your Sweepstakes challenge, it will count as a dead end, but on all future days, it won't. Unfortunately, Mechanarium and Room 46 don't count in your favor. This trophy is all about balance. You need dead ends, but you also need paths to place them. That means that both dead ends and four-way paths are crucial. Thankfully, there are constellations that make both of these much more common. Draxus makes dead ends more likely, the Southern Cross makes four-ways more likely, and at exactly 32 stars or 45 stars, you can get both of these at the same time. But if you make it to 82 or 95 stars, you'll also have the Inkwell constellation, which is probably the single strongest thing in all of Blueprints. You can spend stars to reroll, meaning you can reroll up to 82 or 95 times. But let's say you're speedrunning or you don't have patience for that many stars. It does take a while. There's easier setups that you can do that involve tomorrow rooms. Sauna and Clock Tower will grant you more steps and keys, which is pretty great. Morning Room gives you an extra 2 gems. The coat check will have whatever busted item you're into, like Master Key or Emerald Bracelet. I would say Freezer is the most crucial though, because having a lot of gems will make study even stronger, which just so happens to be a dead end. If you're nervous about finding your study, you can guarantee it with a Shrine Blessing. Simply donate 13 coins to get the Blessing of the Monk. Now, whenever you call it a day, the room you ended your day in can be drafted from the outer room. Boom, there's your study right there. As an aside, you can get a longer blessing if you donate 29, 45, 61, or 77 coins instead. Of course, doing all this does give up your outer room slot, and you might prefer Shelter. Shielding a weight room, and especially shielding archives, is a huge deal in this challenge. You also get a free gem, and you get an instant lab experiment with the potential to unlock every single door with radiation. But, you know, wouldn't it be sad to neglect the tomb on the single day it's most exciting? Look, I'll leave that decision to you, but know that Herbert Sinclair would absolutely pick one of those options. And if you give up the Monk Blessing, the next best one here is probably Dancer, just to make sure that your hallways will always face the ideal directions. A single coin donation will suffice here. If you're curious, the record for most dead ends is 38. Speedrunner Fictitious Account has it all documented in this video that I'll link below. His tactics are beyond the scope of this achievement. They're very technical, but let's just say you can do silly things with Prism Keys, the High Roller Blessing, Electric Eel Aquarium, and a powered laundry room. Next up is the Trophy of Invention. This requires you to make all 8 contraptions. That means you need lots of items. The attic on its own is great, but combine it with a trading post for tons of power. Another great outer room is the Tool Shed, which is strong on its own, but it can also grab Gear Wrench. This can make your workshop common. That is not only the place for contraptions, but workshop also comes with an item that's guaranteed to be used in crafting. If you're lucky, the Chamber of Mirrors can add a bonus workshop to your deck permanently. And if you've forgotten which contraptions you have made and which ones you haven't, your library has those records on the second floor. It would take way too long to list out these recipes. Plus, I feel like a lot of them are pretty self-explanatory. So I'll just tell you the names of these, and with a bit of ingenuity and a lot of items, I'm sure you can figure them out. The Detector Shovel, the Pick Sound Amplifier, the Burning Glass, the Dowsing Rod, the Jackhammer, the Power Hammer, the Electromagnet, and finally, Lucky Purse. This one I have a few things to say. Blueprints doesn't actually tell you this, but the Lucky Purse does keep the Lucky Rabbit's Foot effect, and because Lucky Purse doubles all the coins you pick up, including your allowance, it's very helpful for our next trophy, the Trophy of Wealth. This one is pretty tricky. It says that you have to buy out the entire showroom, which is true, but you also have to buy the trophy itself. That costs 100 coins, and it doesn't last forever. If you can't buy the trophy today, you will have to repurchase the entire showroom on a future day in order to be offered the trophy again. Fortunately, this achievement really isn't that hard. The easiest solution is to smash that secret piggy bank. If you mess around in the chapel with a particular item, you may encounter a cute little Keeper of Tithes. You know all those coins you've lost lost a chapel over the course of your playthrough, well, they all go here. However, if you break the piggy bank, it's destroyed forever, you heartless beast. So, if you are choosing the path of nonviolence, you can go for the Shop Bunk Room. This is an upgrade that can double your coins fairly easily, and if that's not enough, you can always go throw them in a freezer. Now, normally, you can't use the freezer twice in a row because it won't spawn twice in a row. But remember that blessing of the monk, we can force the freezer again and again and again to keep stacking up our money. Donate 13, 29, 45, 61, or 77 coins to the shrine. That can make the blessing last even longer. And if all else fails, go have fun at the casino. Trust me, this trophy is really not that bad. Next up is the Diploma Trophy. Your first step here is to draft 9 classrooms in a single day. You get 8 of them from the schoolhouse, and then a 9th one is added from the drafting studio. Classroom spam is a pretty fun strategy because they chain into each other. However, they are L-shaped rooms, which can sometimes face the wrong direction. Dancer Blessing is pretty helpful to make sure that they're all facing the right way. That only costs you a single coin in the shrine. However, that costs more gems on top of all the classroom gems you have to spend, so you really need to solve your gem economy. Try freezing a ton of gems or just grab an emerald bracelet from the showroom. I actually think classroom is a solid choice for an axe because then every single copy in your deck will be free. Anyway, once you've entered the 9th classroom, a final exam will begin. You'll have exactly 30 minutes to solve it. It's a pretty tricky test, but much of what's been asked is covered by exploring the other classrooms and by reading lots of books. The good news is there's only one test, so even if you fail, the questions stay the same and you can always try and learn again. Once you score an A, you are rewarded with the Diploma Trophy the very next day. Next up is Trophy 8. This is earned for solving 2 puzzles. The first room you need is Gallery, which is a special room. You can only find it once you've either opened room 46 or your game has reached day 46. There are 4 tricky puzzles in here. This is a no spoiler guide, so let's do our best to give you some good hints. First off, these paintings are all done by Christopher Manson. He is the visionary behind the book, The Maze, which inspired Blueprints. It used to be $10, then it was $800, and now at the time of recording, it's a little over $100. If you're curious about it, I have a full story video, and I honestly think every Blueprints fan should learn about The Maze. It's just that good, and it's really interesting to see how a book can influence a game in the year 2025. Anyway, here are some actual hints. The gallery solutions are all synonyms. There are some red herrings in the artwork, but I would try focusing on what stands out the most. I realize it's weird to say, but this is the kind of puzzle where it actually helps to ruminate. Take screenshots and ponder over them while you're not playing the game. I know the gallery seems rare, but you can absolutely draft it again. Don't think that you have to solve it right away. I personally solved this with a small group of friends, and it took us over an hour to do, so don't feel that bad. You will eventually realize the solution. And when you do, you're rewarded with Key 8. Wonder where you use Key 8. Well, it opens room 8, and there's a sinful puzzle in here. Solve it for your trophy and 2 allowance tokens to boot. As a side note, you can continue to solve room 8 once per day to farm a single allowance token, but if you don't pick up trophy 8, you will instead keep farming 2 allowance tokens. You can always pick up the trophy later, so it's up to you when you want to grab it and how much farming you actually care about. Next up is the Logical Trophy and the Bullseye Trophy. These are both earned by solving 40 parlor puzzles and 40 billiard room puzzles. They start off pretty easy, and then they start getting very tough to the point of getting ridiculous. But once you start failing the challenges or just opening the door and not solving them, Blueprints will think that you're a dummy and start to give you easier puzzles again. I know that they feel lame, but there's no shame in the upgrades that make these puzzles easier. Speakeasy is a huge time save because you only have to solve a single easy puzzle for your 2 keys. And for the parlor, the double wind-up key not only makes things easy, but you can trade the second one at a trading post, and having it in your inventory might protect you from a room in the game. There is also an online solver that can generate billiard room answers. You could search for it if you want, but honestly, it's kind of a hassle to input everything, and you can and will absolutely get this puzzle over time. Just keep drafting and trying your best. Eventually, it will become manageable again, and the trophies will be yours. Next up is the Explorer's Trophy. This requires you to complete the room directory. There are 110 unique rooms you can draft in Blueprints, and you don't need to have upgrades. The drafting studio has 8 rooms that you will need to add. You don't actually need to add classroom because the schoolhouse will give it to you for your room directory, but you'll eventually need to add it anyway for your final exam trophy, so I guess that point's kind of moot. Depending on how purist you are, you might want to skip this section. I am still going to give you hints and not just spell it out completely, but that's up to you how much you want to listen to. There are a few special rooms in Blueprints that are always available, but they can only be drafted in particular ways. Her Ladyship's Chambers is on the side of the house that's known to be Lady Epson's favorite. Try moving in different directions, you might encounter it. The master bedroom is in some ways the opposite of Her Ladyship's Chambers, and the bookshop can only be drafted from a room that's related to it. The real trick here is finding the extra rooms to add to your deck. I'm gonna try my best to give you hints. Tunnel is pretty easy. You find it in a fitting place, but you might need to see a bit better. Mechanarium is fittingly found in a gear area. It's gotta be the easiest to find of all these. The closed exhibit is found in a safe. Make sure you read the entire red envelope to add it. The conservatory requires you to solve the music sheet puzzle. Think hard about the true message. The planetarium is found in a very fitting room, and you can get the direct answer if you send enough letters to the mailroom through the lab experiment. What can I say? Randolph Moore likes spoiling a lot more than I do. The armory can be added, but you do need to solve a chess puzzle. Lost and found can be dug up once you've examined the underground map very carefully. The treasure trove is a very tricky one. There's a red door that's not operational. You'll have to figure out how to open that door. And once you eventually encounter a 4-digit lock, just remember the message from the mansion's artwork. In fact, if you're skilled at the Arajan language, the solution is an Arajan pun, and that's why we love blueprints. As a side note, this area gives a major clue to a new area that contains a sanctum key, so pay attention. And the throne room. This requires all the microchips, and believe me, a new clue the book might drive you crazy, but it does in fact reveal the locations of the other 2 microchips. You will need a sledgehammer and a shovel to get them. You can theoretically find them on day 1, so that's the best hint I can give you. And finally, the Trophy of Sigils requires you to have all 8 sanctum keys. Remember where the north lever is? The one that's underground and opens up room 46? The doors that surround that lever all take sanctum keys. You can open any door you like, and once you've used the key, it's gone forever in a positive way. The last thing you want to do is end your day with a sanctum key because you will have to find it again. Brush up on your blueprints lore because opening the doors is not enough. You'll have to solve a realm and sigil puzzle. That makes this trophy a very fitting follow-up to the final exam diploma. You will for sure want to read Realm and Rune from the bookshop. Gathering all the sanctum keys is tough, but it's fair. Your major clue comes from the game itself, and that's from revisiting room 46. There's a poem that reads, "The first key found here on the furthest rank. The second locked tight in the vaults of a bank. The third is high up among all the clocks. And the fourth down below beneath all the docks. The fifth is held by a king on his throne. The sixth in a station left by one of your own. The seventh is major if you draft it quite late. And the last key is waiting behind the last door of 8. These are genuinely great clues. I'm going to do my best to give you extra hints here. The first key is straight up in room 46. You can't miss it. The second requires a specific vault key, but don't be sad to get the other ones. Vault keys that are used will never spawn again, so your future vault keys are way more likely to be the one you need. The third key requires the sacred hour. You will likely need to wait a while. The fourth key is in the dock area. You'll need a way to deal with water. The fifth is in the throne room, just straight up. The sixth key is probably the trickiest. Remember my hint in the treasure trove area and just do your best. The seventh key will also require you to wait a long time, so that's a good one to combine with the third key, which involves the sacred hour. And the final 8th key is in a room that can have up to 8 doors, and it's not the Great Hall. It's tough to get all 8 doors, but you can draft this room in a particular way to make the bonus doors easier. And finally, when you do start to solve the realm puzzles, keep in mind that there are multiple layers of switches. If you use your keypad instead of clicking or highlighting with your mouse, you can clearly see the highlighted areas. Keep strong and check your notes. You got this. And with these 15 trophies, we have earned the final one, the Trophy of Trophies. And now we can finally enjoy every single trophy in our special room, the Trophy Room. You can access it once you've earned even a single trophy that you can display in here. But look how beautiful it is to have the full set. It's true that you can see this info in the entrance hall once you've earned an achievement, but it's so much better in this cozy room. Do keep in mind that getting all the trophies is not the end of Blueprints. There are still so many more secrets to uncover and discover, but I will leave that to you, dear Scout. I'm working really hard on the best indie games of 2025, at least the ones that I played. So if you enjoyed a great indie game that came out this year, please let me know in the comments. I would love to try it out myself and include it in my wonderful video. As always, thanks for caring for our community, and I'll see you next time.